The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
Okay. Well, just for the record, we got it's sunny in Phoenix too. 52 to.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunny in Phoenix podcast, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. My name is Charlie Erling, and as always, I'm joined by Mitch Krmpotich.
Let's get some lulls in the chat.
Lulls in the chat, please. This week on the show, we'll be talking about the wings. We'll be talking about how both Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson fared in the bubble. After that, we'll talk about the future of Kelly Oubre, sticking on the wing topic. And after that, we'll just do a quick little what if. We'll talk about the Blazers versus Lakers series, and we'll discuss if maybe the Suns had a better shot.
Follow us on Twitter at SunnyandPHXPod. Same thing for Instagram. Go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review and a comment, and you will get a shout out on the show.
All right, we're going to start it off talking about the wings in the bubble, and we saw plenty of minutes out of both Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson since Oubre was not available to play throughout. And overall, I am very excited about how both of these guys played and their future with the organization. This was a nice little taste of the future, I think, is what we got to see in the bubble. But let's start off with Mikal, and when we talk about Mikal, we start with defense. And starting off in the bubble, he had some pretty tough assignments. He had Kawhi and PG. He had Luka. He had TJ Warren, who was scoring nearly 50 points per game at the time. And he did such a fantastic job not completely shutting these guys down, but keeping them quiet throughout those games.
Yeah, Mikal's defense is really good. I think people know this, too. I know Zach Lowe even, and those kind of national pundits talk about Mikal being considered for like all defense and that kind of thing. I don't think he's going to actually make any team like that quite yet. He will eventually, but he's definitely put himself on the map for just being a really good defender. People see how long his arms are, how he gets in the passing lanes and disrupts any team's offense, really. And yeah, he did a really good job guarding guys like Kawhi and PG. And like you said, he doesn't completely shut them down because they're really great players. No one's going to shut them down. But he'll hold them to what he has to in order for us to win games. So yeah, he did great on defense.
Right. I know in that Clippers game, Kawhi ended up scoring over 20 in that, but he started the game off 1 for 5 with 2 points through the first quarter, or something along those lines. And that's because Mikal was absolutely pestering him. And it's nice throughout the bubble. Probably we can assume that more people were watching Suns games than usual, since we were, eliminate 8 teams out of there. There's fewer games to watch, so why not watch the Suns? And Mikal just does those things where if you like basketball, you see him and you think, man, this guy has a for sure future in the league doing just that. And the one thing about Mikal that I kind of want to talk about is it seems like he makes up for so much defensively with his wingspan, as in he'll get burned every once in a while. He doesn't quite keep his feet in front of guys who are maybe a little quicker than him, but he just makes up for it with those long arms with a poke out steal or a block from behind. I think he's only going to get better. Once he's able to stay in front of guys even more as they're penetrating, he's going to be such a good defender. He'll be on that all first defensive team.
Yeah, I think so eventually too. The footwork can get better. the quickness, just reading the defense, and that comes with time. He still has only been in the league for a few years, so this was his second year. So, gotta be understanding there. But I think his arms and his wingspan are such a huge strength, and he's always got him up and active.
Right.
It's like when you go back to, I'm sure we all played like basketball at a young age. I'm talking before high school, even before like junior high. Hands up. You're hearing over and over and over, hands up. And you see these little kids going around with their hands straight in the air, like, my coach said, put my hands up, But Mikal Bridges does that so perfectly. He's always got his hands up and ready in the right position. So, yeah, he definitely does make up for any times he gets burned because he has such a ridiculous wingspan and he just plays such, fundamentally sound defense even when he gets burned, which is going to happen to anyone from time to time.
Right. And let's switch it over offensively. So let's just talk about within the bubble. We saw a boost in minutes, obviously, with no Oubre there. So he played almost 34 minutes per game, scored 13 per game, shooting 48% from the floor and 40% from three. He made almost 2 out of almost 4.5 attempts in the bubble there, and 82% from the line. So it's safe to say that the hitch we saw in Bridges' shot earlier in the season is gone. Everything looks so fluid with his release. He looks so confident. This is something I expect him to build on next year. I don't expect him to go 40% from three next year, but an improvement into the mid-30s is something I can definitely see.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I would love to see it be as close to 40 or above 40 if possible, but his MO is not offense. It's starting to get there a little bit, though. We know that he's great at cutting to the basket, being a little sneaky on those backdoor cuts. We've also seen him drive a little bit. He's gotten stronger, definitely, so getting to the rim is not as much of an issue. He's very athletic, so that's nice. But yeah, his shooting was very improved in the bubble, and the hitch was a big concern. But it seems like he eliminated it, and having more games to be able to put his new and improved shot into practice will be better.
Sure, and I should correct myself. He did shoot 36% from three this year, but only on less than 3 attempts per game, over 1 total fewer attempt per game than his rookie year. So the hitch probably had something to do with that early on in the lower numbers, but when he was playing all these minutes in the bubble and we were depending on him to put up some points, I think he did a fantastic job, and this is what we got to hope for next year too.
I think he stepped up. He knew he was going to have to add to the offensive side of things without Oubre especially, because Oubre was putting up good numbers too, and he was shooting the three pretty well. So Mikal knew, and he stepped up. He didn't let the pressure bring him down. He used it as motivation, definitely. But yeah, I think coming next season, he'll be able to maybe take closer to 4 threes a game, and I wouldn't be mad at that.
No, not at all. And we saw such an improvement in both of the wings we're going to talk about today in their bodies during the quarantine period. Now it's back to off season. I'm hoping those guys are on the same system, and I'd like to see Mikal add a little more, and maybe for Cam just to retain what he added on, because they're looking NBA ready now.
Yeah, they definitely are. No, they both look stronger and bigger, more physical, and it showed in their play on the court, So keep doing whatever they're doing. It seems like the Sun strength and conditioning staff is really solid, just based on what we've seen with these guys. I think Dario too, you can throw in there. Dario worked with the strength and conditioning team, and it paid off. He looked good.
Right. Dario, it looked like he slimmed down a little bit compared to those guys bulking up. Dario, I think he lost some stuff that could have very well been lost, and it definitely benefited his numbers in the bubble. 15 points per game, 7.5 boards. so
so
big.
nice.
We
Yeah.
we didn't have Baines, who was such a big part for us during the year. Dario stepped up, played a little backup five. Not something I want to rely on him to do.
Right.
But in the bubble, he got the job done.
Yeah, but no, I mean, at the end of the day, it's, these guys, their bodies are part of their work, and so by working out and eating right and everything, that's gonna help them so much. And clearly, they're very serious about it and are listening to the strength and conditioning staff, and it worked out so well for all of those guys. So I'm sure they're gonna keep it up.
Right. And on the topic, Cameron Johnson. That was so big for his game. Putting on some of that weight, some of that strength, it's so good for him. We were thinking when he came into the NBA, he's going to be a spot-up shooter. He's fragile. We don't know if he can defend. 180-degree turn on that, though. This guy looks the part. He's playing the part. He's a shooter still. Yeah, he was 35% in the bubble from downtown, but he was putting up a lot, 5.5 attempts per game. We were relying on that. He needed to be out there to space the floor. He was getting his shots up. I'm never mad about a Cameron Johnson shot. Yeah,
no, he's a good shooter. First year, I think he did great. He put on that weight, and he is a stretch four, And I think at the beginning of the season, we really questioned, where is he going to play? He's not quite big enough to play the four, to defend those guys like, a Paul George type. That's going to be tough for him. And I'm not saying like, oh yeah, he's a lockdown defender now. Not necessarily, but he can bang with those guys a little bit more now. And I'm pretty confident that he can be, whether it's a backup or starting role, he can play the four. And I remember when we drafted him, we were like, well, maybe he'll play the two. Maybe he'll kind of back up Booker, but we're seeing that's not happening.
Right. I'm thankful that's the case, even though we do need a backup for Booker. I think that's still one of the needs on our list.
Yeah.
I really like, you have that size, being 6'8", 6'9". Why not use it to its full potential? And putting on that weight definitely did the job. One thing I noticed about him, and this is just a small little thing, but when he gets on a path to the basket and he gets it in his brain that he's going to dunk, he's like a freight train to the rim.
Yeah.
It's fluid and powerful. He doesn't try to bring the rim down or anything with him, but it seems like anyone that tries to get in his way will just be bouncing off, unless it's like LeBron or somebody, obviously.
Right, of course, yeah. Yeah, no, he had some really great moments in the bubble where he got to the rim and he dunked hard. And yeah, it's kind of like Mikal, anything that he does outside of shooting threes is just going to be a welcomed addition. And I think Cam even had some nice cuts where, he probably was working a little bit with Mikal and figuring out how he can get to the rim a little bit more. And yeah, I think it's great. I love seeing those guys because, you have to respect them so much at the 3-point line that it's going to open things up. So,
yeah, if you have to respect your guy out at the 3-point line and that guy knows how to time a perfect back cut, that's not going to be a fun defensive assignment because you're going to have to be heads up every second you're on the court against one of those guys. And we haven't quite seen this. We do get Cam running off screens for threes, but I'd like to see more of that. Get a big 6'8", 6'9" guy trying to chase Cam Johnson through screens. Make him work.
Yeah, no, that's nice. And think about this too. A lot of, Cam and Mikal are both taking corner threes quite a bit. You get them in the corner though, some guys, defenders coming to, get right on him to block the shot or defend him, pump fake really quick, let the guy fly by, take a couple dribbles toward the basket. If you're open, shoot it. But if the defense rotates and helps, this team is pretty smart. You're going to have someone cut into the basket from the top of the key, whether it's Rubio or Booker or I would love to say Ayton, but I don't think I can at this point. Someone crashing to the basket, And Cam and Mikal are both smart guys. They're decent playmakers. If they get the rotation coming over to guard them, they can just hand the ball off really quick to Booker or Rubio or whoever it is that's crashing to the glass, you know?
Yep. Yeah, so all in all, both those wings, really happy about both of them. But this is the topic that needs to be discussed. We did not have Kelly Oubre throughout the bubble. We got to see what our two younger guys, not even that young, but with fewer years experience, could do in Bridges and Johnson. They stepped up to the task. I don't think you can deny that. So let's start off with this. Kelly Oubre being out was a big step for both Bridges and Johnson. Being able to get pushed out into the spotlight, having to perform and score for your team to win. So I think we got the best view of Johnson and Bridges at this point due to Oubre being out. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
For 8 games.
For 8 games, yeah. So this is not, I'll say it right now. We can't put our money on this. Bridges and Johnson are both good NBA wings that deserve minutes on any team in the NBA. But are we at a point with Kelly Oubre in his last year of his contract and then becoming an unrestricted free agent? Is it time to consider trading Oubre and letting Bridges and Johnson take the wing spotlight? Or do we keep him around and then next offseason, potentially pay him big money or let him go for nothing? Well, where do you land on this?
Well, this is tough. I think, the question is it time to consider trading him? Yes. You have to consider it. Do I want that to happen, though? No. I would rather have him ride out this year and then pay him a year from now. That's what I would like to see. I am not opposed to having all 3 of these guys on the court at once, at times. Having Mikal play the 2, Oubre play the 3, and Cam Johnson play the 4. I'm not opposed to that happening. That's so much length. They can all shoot. They're all athletic. I think that would be great. I know Kelly Oubre also wants to be here, and we're starting to see a shift. But in my mind, I still think anyone who wants to be here, we need to jump on, because for so long people didn't want to be here. He was a big part of the culture shift with this team as well, and I want to keep that around. Kelly had a great season. He had some unfortunate injuries, but he had a really great season and has really come into his own in Phoenix. I think he's in the right system. Playing next to Booker and Rubio is helpful. Plus, I just love Kelly. I'm super biased. He's one of my favorite players. I think at times you could say he was the second best player on the team in certain games. I would rather pay him than trade him or let him walk.
That's fair, because Oubre does do a lot for the team. He's the guy that we can lean on to score if Booker doesn't have it going, if Ayton's mid-range turnarounds aren't falling. we can lean on Kelly in this situation, and I think that's the best thing he brings to the table is he can be the third scorer on this team.
Yeah.
My biggest holdup is I think that he might, I don't know Kelly personally or what he says about this, but I think he might need to just check the ego a bit and take a bench role. Still play 30 minutes a game. The minutes will still be there. But when we got to see how well, especially Bridges works with guys like Ayton and Booker, and I think Johnson is a little bit more built like that too. I like how those guys I like how that bubble starting 5 fit together. Mm-hmm. And then when we have to pull Booker out, when nobody has it going, you fire Kelly into the lineup and say, Kelly, you're our microwave. Go get yours. Green light across the board. Make it happen. That's what I think needs to happen for the team, for the future of the team and the present of the team.
That's interesting. Think about our lineup, though. We had this amazing lineup that had the best offensive rating, or one of the best offensive ratings in the league, and the lineup was Rubio, Booker, Oubre, Bridges, Ayton.
Right, but that lineup was so great, but then what happens when you have to dissemble that and move into the bench? Then everything just falls apart.
That's true. Our bench was terrible.
So that's my one thing. That's why I think Kelly should take that role. And it's going to be very tough for him to embrace that, especially in a contract year. So that's how do you navigate this? I wish I knew I wish I was a fly on the wall in the locker room to just know a little bit more about it. But would you willingly accept a move to the bench in a contract year? I don't know if I would.
It's so hard to say because I'm like, yeah, I get to play in the NBA, of course. I'll do whatever they say.
Mitch would, yeah.
But would Kelly? It's a good question because, I mean, we know that he's a little bit of a flamboyant guy, and I think that's one of the things I love about him. You know, I could see him getting upset at being in a bench role, you know. I think that would be great to have him come off the bench, like you said, be that microwave, you know, really spark the fire under the bench guys, because we missed that last year. I mean, we really did. There were some games that were just so poor from the bench, and it kind of reminds me a little of Dario, you know. Dario started at the beginning of the season and didn't play all that well, and he was, you know, just DNP CD sometimes. And once he accepted that, like, he could come off the bench and have an important role on the team, things got better. But, you know, it was a tough adjustment for him. It was an ego check, and he was used to starting. He had started just about everywhere he had played. And, you know, Monty kind of had to put him in his place a little bit. And look how it worked out for him, you know. Is Kelly going to be able to do the same thing? I imagine he could, but it might be a tough adjustment.
Yeah, I'm just really, you know, as a fan sitting here, I watch all the games. I try to follow as closely as possible. That's what I want, but I just don't see it happening. And if it, I don't know, man. If Kelly doesn't get his way, would Kelly throw a fit, and would everything that the Suns have built come tumbling down? Could that happen? I'd like to think that James Jones has a firmer grasp on the entire roster than that, but man, it seems like, I don't know, we haven't quite been in a contract situation like this one that we foresee coming up with Kelly. We haven't had this come up for a bit.
Yeah. You know, could that happen? Yes, I suppose it could. Will it? I don't think so. I think James Jones has a good grasp on this. And I could see, you know, if Kelly's upset, James Jones saying, where do you want to go? You know, let's get you in a favorable situation. I mean, Kelly's trade value is as high as it's going to be. I mean, it could be a little higher if he wasn't injured, if he would have played a little bit in the bubble. But he had such a great season, and I think people noticed that. So yeah, his trade value is up there. And right now he's on a contract that's not very expensive. So if there's a time to trade him, it's probably now. I know, but I really don't want to.
Yeah, and, you know, it's going to be really interesting on draft day when we're up on the clock with the 11th pick and we take a wing.
10th pick.
Or 10th pick, excuse me. If we take a wing, that might be a little bit of writing on the wall there.
That's a good point. Yeah. See, and it's so tough with the draft. I wanted to bring this up today. We're going to be in the position where we're just going to take the best player available. And it very well just could be a wing. Obviously, we want someone who can back Booker up. And I would say a wing could do that, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're right. It could be writing on the wall, depending on what we do.
We're still a long ways away from that, though.
Yeah, we are. Well, and we also don't really know when next season is going to start. They said December 1st for, you know, however long, and now they're like, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
Because, the whole plan was like, okay, by December 1st, we'll be able to have fans in the seats again and all of that. And now we're like, well, who knows? Maybe it'll be 25% capacity and we wear masks, or maybe not. Or maybe we'll have a vaccine by then and everything will be great. We don't know. We just don't have the answers to this right now.
Right. Well, one thing that I suppose as sports fans we can look forward to is the NFL seems to be on track to kick off within less than 2 weeks. I think a lot of teams are doing the quarter capacity or third capacity at their stadiums. So let's hope that the NBA can, at a minimum, get something going like that by, what was Christmas the last thing they were talking about, trying to start around end of December?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Football and baseball too. I don't know that they're planning on changing anything up. It will be interesting to see how that goes, and if a lot of people get sick or how well people adhere to the regulations that are put in place. I think that'll make a difference. But it will be nice to have something to compare things to. Definitely.
Sure. I think basketball did a pretty darn good job leading the way for the bubble situation, but
yeah,
an entire regular season and a new season is an entirely different thing. So
yeah, well, and you know what? If you think about it too, it's a little bit different with football because a lot of the stadiums are
open air.
Yeah, I would say outdoor, but not necessarily. Kind of outdoor,
Yeah.
So I think that makes a difference. And I mean, the NBA is not going to be able to do the bubble again. It's great. Like, it works well. It's working well. It's serving its purpose right now. But to have guys be away from their families and their homes and their friends and everything like that for so long, that's so hard. You're seeing videos of guys who are, we've got some series that are getting finished up here and guys going home and seeing their reactions to seeing their families again. Like, obviously they don't want to lose, but by losing and leaving the bubble, they get to be with their kids and their spouses and stuff.
Yeah. And I've seen people say, like, oh, these guys make millions of dollars. They can stay in the bubble for a couple months. But, I mean, whatever job you have, if you were to go home at 5:30 and your wife wasn't there or your kid wasn't there, and it's been a couple months like that, that'd wear on you. Don't fool yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough no matter who you are.
That's right. Yeah, so I don't think the bubble is a sustainable thing for a full season.
No, I think
right now, fine.
Totally the right move for now.
Yes. Yeah, we did what we had to, and yeah, we'll be able to look to the NFL and maybe baseball. Because baseball, they're kind of in between. Still no fans except for the cardboard cutouts, which I still don't like. But they're traveling, they're going from city to city. And it's not a bubble, but people are also getting sick. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of games get postponed. And friend of the show, the real man's man, Josh Cranwetter, at Josh Cran on Twitter, go ahead and follow him. He's a big St. Louis Cardinals fan. And he was upset because the Cardinals hadn't played a game for like 2 weeks because they had so many guys get sick.
Oh,
and
that's tough.
Yeah, I saw a notification today that the Oakland A's had some positive tests. And so now all their games are getting postponed.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I know. So
I'm ready for 2021.
I'm ready for 2021 to be better. Everyone's like, oh yeah, 2020 needs to end. I'm like, is 2021 gonna be better? I hope so.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, we're making progress though.
Yeah. So it's time for the big what if. We saw the Blazers versus Lakers series that the Lakers just wrapped up 2 nights ago. So after that first game, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was sitting in my chair after the Blazers had won thinking, man, the Suns could have done that. Could we beat the Lakers in a 7-game series? But, after that, the Lakers kind of turned it to a different level, and we were reminded LeBron James, Anthony Davis, pretty good duo. So let's not say, would we have beaten the Lakers? Could we have hung with the Lakers better compared to the Blazers?
Probably not. Maybe about the same. Maybe if we were lucky, we could have got 2 games on them.
So night one after the Blazers win, me still being a salty Suns fan, I was like, we could have done better than that. We could have beat the Blazers in the play-in series. I was riding pretty high, but then I watched a few more games and just realized both of those teams, the Blazers and the Lakers, are so big.
Yeah.
They matched up pretty darn well together. If we would have been in there without Baines, we would have needed Baines to compete with either of those teams, I think, realistically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dwight Howard alone. Now, Dwight Howard is not what he used to be, but Dwight Howard could take Ayton to school.
I'd agree that Ayton would probably have a tough time keeping Dwight off the boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
but then there's JaVale, and then there's Anthony Davis.
And
they're
Anthony
so
Davis.
big. That's a lot of height going around.
Yeah, and the Blazers have Yusuf Nurkic, who is good at rebounding, pretty good defender, big guy, and he had trouble. It's like if Nurkic is going to have trouble with those guys, Ayton definitely will.
Right, and the Blazers could also, and they did, put Whiteside out there at the same time too, just to try to outsize them, but that didn't work either. And I don't know what to say about Hassan Whiteside because 1 minute he'll look like the best defensive center to ever play the game, and then the next minute it looks like maybe this is an oversized baby on the court. I don't know. It just seems so weird how he looks so dominant and then so like he doesn't care the next minute.
Yeah, no, it is pretty interesting to see him. But yeah, I mean, I think we could have won a game or two, but the Lakers are so good. I hate to say that, but they're really good.
Yeah, when they're hitting on all cylinders, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. And just I kind of appreciate how they're so big and then Houston's so small. That'd be kind of a fun matchup to see that collision happen.
Uh-huh. PJ Tucker having to guard Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I'd love to see
and
that.
Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee.
At the same time.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that'd be interesting. But I will say, I think we could have beat the Blazers in the play-in. Like, if we would have made it instead of the Grizzlies, or if we would have made it instead of the Blazers, we could have beat the Grizzlies. I think easily we could have beat either of those teams and got in to be playing the Lakers as the 8 seed.
Yeah, I think Memphis, they're so dinged up. I think we could have handled them no problem. All you got to do is contain JV and then Ja, obviously, but otherwise outside
Brandon
of them,
Clark too.
Yeah, he's solid, but not the guy you got to totally worry about.
I know.
But then again, Aaron Brooks, right?
Yeah.
No, Dylan Brooks. Excuse me.
Oh, we've been there before.
He had a couple big games that I think in a game that counted, I remember he had 30 plus. So they're okay. I think we could have handled them in the bubble. Blazers, that would have been. I really hope that we would have won the first game because that would have been a great 2-game series. That would have been a lot of fun to watch.
Yes.
That would have been peak bubble experience right there.
Yeah, it would have. Winning a playoff game, and just the fact that that's like not super unreasonable anymore is nice.
Yeah. This will be a fun off season because we ended on such a high note. We never end the season on a high note.
Right. We're going into the next season pretty excited. And, I'm thinking about how we do our predictions every year. And I know at the beginning of this past season, we were predicting maybe between 30 and 35 wins. And I'm really excited to see what we end up predicting for next season and what even just like the national pundits and everyone are predicting for us because we put ourselves on the map. Like, we're getting a lot more respect in the media and from the rest of the league as compared to usual. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what those predictions look like.
I'm ready for it.
Me too. All right, well, with that, we will shift to our non-sports section of the show. We need theme music for this, I'm just realizing, but I can work on that. We were talking before the show just about video games. I wouldn't say either of us are like huge gamers, but we like video games. So what have you been playing lately?
So I got into the Fall Guys hype. I watched someone play it and I was like, oh, this looks fun. Kind of reminded me of old Mario Party games with the obstacle course type thing. And my nephew was over here yesterday, a couple days ago. So I downloaded it for free because I have that PlayStation Plus, I think it's called. And I was like, oh, I'll let him play this. I watched him play it for about 15, 20 minutes, and I got pretty hyped about it. I played it a little bit. It's a lot of fun. And tonight, after we record this podcast, my wife and I we're gonna hop in. We're gonna try to get an hour or so in, I think. We're gonna play some Fall Guys.
Nice.
And obviously, a little RimWorld too,
Yeah.
I don't need to say anything more.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a video game segment if you didn't bring up RimWorld. Shout out quickly to Professor Cheems on YouTube, who does some really great Fall Guys tutorials. I haven't actually even played Fall Guys. I want to, but these tutorials that I've watched from Professor Cheems, I have a good understanding of how it works just because of that. So, yeah, subscribe to him on YouTube. He's got some good stuff. I have been doing something a little bit differently, though. I've been playing a lot of Nintendo Switch. I was playing a little bit of Sea of Thieves with friend of the show, the Real Man's Man, Josh Cranwetter at Josh Cran on Twitter. And that's like an Xbox thing. He was playing on PC. And so we were playing some Sea of Thieves together, which is fun. You play as a pirate. You have to get treasure, and you can buy like clothes and eye patches and peg legs and all that. That's pretty fun. But I haven't been playing as much of that lately. But on the Switch, there's like a Super Nintendo, I guess, emulator, you could say. It's free. You can download the Super Nintendo game, and there's all kinds of old Super Nintendo games that take me back to when I was playing Super Nintendo as a kid. And one of my favorite games was Super Mario World, the Super Nintendo version. It's like one of the earlier Super Mario Brothers games, and it's just so fun. Like, to go through those levels, and it comes back to me so much more quickly than I expected. I'm remembering how the levels go. I'm remembering some of the little shortcuts. Sometimes I have to look it up and like jog my memory a little bit, but it's been really fun. I remember how frustrating it is too. Yesterday I was playing quite a bit, and I had to keep doing the same level over and over and over, and that took me back to being younger too and getting frustrated with the game. But it's so good. Like, it still holds up, and it came out in 1990, so it's been 30 years now, which is weird to think, but it's still such a great game, and the music is still really catchy and gets stuck in your head so easy, and yeah, just so much fun.
Yeah, you started whistling one of the themes for that game, and instantly after you whistled maybe 2 notes of it, I knew exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, I'll put it at the end of this episode.
There we go.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But with that, we'll wrap it up. So thank you all for tuning in. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at SunnyandPHXPod. Let us know what video games you're playing lately, and how you think the Suns would have done if they were playing the Lakers in the playoffs. We'll be back next week to talk about the big boys, the power forward and the center positions, and we will talk to you next week. Go Suns.